Brahmacharya Vrati Dandi Sarva Vedanta Pandita Srimad Viveka Yogi Mam Prachodayadu Sarvada. Maybe some of you are not acquainted with this center, Vivekananda Kendra Vedic Vision Foundation at Kodungalur. Where is this Kodungalur? What is the importance of Kodungalur in Swamiji's life? Many of you may not be aware of it. So, in the little time I have till Swamiji comes, I will sort of entertain you with a bit of historical knowledge about the importance of Kodungalur in Swamiji's life. You know, in 1892, when Swamiji was doing his Bharat Parikrama, from Bangalore, he took the train and came to a place called Shornur in Kerala, because the train services were only up to Shornur. That was at the end of the old Cochin state. From there, it had not been built. So Swamiji got down there, took one, bull cart, and then came to about 20 kilometers ahead is our famous Trichur, now known as Trishur, Trishiva Perur, because of the 3 or 4 great Shiva temples there. So there he stayed for a few days, and as his Lakshya was Kanyakumari, he started from there. He took a boat from there on the way to Ernakulam. So in between came this ancient temple town of Kodungalur. Kodungalur is famous for its Devi temple, a very powerful center of Shakti Pidha like. And you know, in those days, Kerala was having a lot of caste problems. They won't entertain anybody in the temple premises, won't allow people to enter into the temples unless they know for certain who, what, when, and all that. So Swamiji was lingering about there. Nobody invited him to go to the temple. He sat under one, there are so many banyan trees around the temple. He sat under one of these trees and quietly remained there for a couple of days. But that inborn, dazzling spiritual power of Swamiji, slowly it started attracting people, and people will come and watch him and maybe doing some little conversations. Anyway, temple authorities, the local prince of the local royal family, he and a few companions came there, and they saw this Swamiji. They were struck by his personality and started talking to him. They were amazed to see the great scholarship of Swamiji, but even then, it didn't occur them to invite him to the temple for a darshan. That was the hold of the local traditions. They didn't dare to take him to the temple. Then they went back and discussed about this Swamiji in the palace. I know in those days, the women of Kerala, especially in the palaces, they were highly educated, not going to college or places like that. They were all highly educated in Sanskrit. And when they heard about this Swamiji sitting so near to their place, they thought they must also come and see him. So they came and started conversing with Swamiji with all respect. And Swamiji was surprised to see the ease with which these women were handling Sanskrit. They spoke in Sanskrit. They discussed about some of the latest publication in Sanskrit. Swamiji was delighted, and he kept this memory very dear to him in his heart. And the ladies invited him to the palace. Next day morning, he was to go and receive their hospitality. And they left like that. But Swamiji didn't want to tarry any longer there in Kodungallur. Early next morning, he took another boat and proceeded to Ernakulam. Because at Ernakulam, he was to meet the personal secretary to the Diwan of Cochin and take a letter from him to meet the Diwan in Trivandrum. That was a different state altogether. So he came to Ernakulam, and there he stayed in one Brahmin's house, and they were delighted to have Swamiji as their guest. The typical Kerala atmosphere in those days, very calm and quiet and pure air, Arabian Sea very near, and lot of streamlets, the coconut trees with their murmurings, people very clean in their habits. Everybody gets up early in the morning, takes a bath and try to go to the temple and do the worshipping there. So he was delighted. And he spent some time there. Slowly, many of the people who knew him gathered round and started conversing with him. Then they said, if you are going to Trivandrum, it will be a long journey of 6-7 days in boat. We will send somebody with you. And they chose one boy, young man, who was a Muslim. And he proceeded on his journey. Again, it was a very, very heartwarming journey. With just a few boatmen, they will be singing songs as they ride along. And this young man who was accompanying Swamiji took care of all his needs, stopped at different places. They cooked some food, must have been some kanji, typical Kerala kanji. And like that, they proceeded to Trivandrum. So it is in Trivandrum he stayed 9 days, I think. He stayed in Trivandrum as the guest of Maharaja's tutor, one Subramaniam Iyer. And we will come back to Swamiji's memory lane. And this trip to Kodungallur, I told you, left an impact in Swamiji's mind in as much as the ladies speaking Sanskrit. He was very much delighted because he always wanted the women of the country to be highly educated and cultured, civilized, so that the newer generations will also acquire that culture and traditions. So he was very much delighted. And from Kanyakumari, we all know the story of Swamiji's later travel. About how do we know that Swamiji was so much enamored of Kodungallur? When he was having a retreat in the Thousand Island Park with his devotees, it was there he mentioned how he passed through Kerala, how he was in Kodungallur, and how he could talk to
now
the
I will make you
ladies.
1 minute. Yeah, now you are there.
There, in 1992,
Yes, ma'am.
Vivekananda Kendra repeated that Swamiji's Bharat Parikrama in our own way, not by walking or as a Parivraja or anything like that, with some 50 volunteers and 10 motor vehicles. And as we started, and when we came to Kodungalur, which was one of the main places we visited, one local service-minded gentleman from the Saraswati Brahmin community, he wanted to gift us a piece of land measuring about an acre, and he said Vivekananda Kendra should start something here. And that is how by the 1997, we had accepted that offer, taken the papers and donation and everything. But in 1997, we started this center, Vivekananda Kendra Vedic Vision Foundation. For the last 23 years, we are here and always remembering Swamiji's visit to Kodungalur, his interest in the Sanskrit studies. We also try in our own way to spread Swamiji's message, the message of Sanatana Dharma, then through yoga, through various activities, we are also making this place alive with Swami Vivekananda's memory, because Swami Vivekananda was almost a forgotten figure till the Rock Memorial came into being. And in Kerala, people had not a very pleasant memory of Swamiji, because Swamiji dared to call Kerala as a lunatic asylum. So we are trying to rub out that negative memory and try to spread Swamiji's message. And this effort also is part of our effort to bring Swamiji's spiritual message to the people all around. And Swamiji is now to join us. We welcome you, Swamiji, and we were delighted by your first lecture. We are all eager to listen to your second lecture. The glow which you had implanted in our hearts during your last lecture, we have kept it alive, glowing, and please carry on with the next one. Thank you, Swamiji.
Suswagatam and Namaskaram to all of you. Welcome to all to the Love India Forum. In this forum called Love India, we will be having a positive and elevating time meditating on different aspects of one of the greatest Indians in the last century, Swami Vivekananda. Love India. This dual word formula is a powerful mantra revealed by Swamiji for the progress and development of motherland India. This mantra has a transforming effect both on us as individuals as well as on our country collectively, if applied and practiced sincerely and seriously. In fact, it was this mantra that transformed Margaret Noble into Sister Nivedita, the dedicated and beloved sister of India. It has the great power and potential to unleash the tremendous possibilities that are hidden in every one of us Indians. And this mantra is one of the most practical and powerful solution for developing our country. And these two words, development and progress, squeezed into these words has been used by every political party in India now during the election time. This mantra was coined by Swami Vivekananda when once Josephine MacLeod asked him, Swamiji, how best I can help you? And Swamiji's answer was, love India. India is now badly in need of this mental trait. It is this love, never failing, never abandoning, never betraying, never disassociating oneself, once committed, which is the essence of relationship. Can we get related to our country, our motherland, Bharata Bhumi, through the relation chemistry of love? Do we love our country? This is one of the most explosive questions that comes out through the complete works of Swami Vivekananda when we go through it in a serious manner. That is why I feel we need Vivekananda now very badly, in whom this trait was overflowing so much so that even a trivial incident seems to echo this quality of Swamiji. Physically, Vivekananda is not there with us, but meditating on him and about him, in a way, we bring him back vibrating in our lives and thus imbibe that unique quality which our motherland needs very urgently, and that is our innate capacity to love our country, motherland, India. Our appreciations and good wishes to Vivekananda Kendra Kodungalur for starting this forum called Love India. Our congratulations to the Love India members for facilitating these meets. The more we think of Vivekananda, the more he starts throbbing in our hearts, minds, thoughts, and actions, and slowly it molds our character in the way we worship our great hero in his own mold. And soon we will find, though it may not be 100% Vivekananda, each one of us are representing Vivekananda in different percentages in our own lives. And collectively, when percentages join together, it becomes 100%. In the last meeting, we saw 3 or 4 incidents reflecting the qualities of Vivekananda as he moved and mingled with human beings. I think the current has come. Let me switch on to this laptop Google Meet also. Net has
You
not
can
come.
you can continue in this.
So let me see. 3 or 4 incidents which reflected Swami Vivekananda's great qualities. Today we are extending the meditation to the next session, enjoying our holy company with our dear and great Swamiji. We will revisit some more incidents highlighting this excellent quality of human relationship. Human relationship, in a way, involves relationship with our own country, as well as relationship with nations which are not India. In short, how to get united or related with other countries, which is one of the most interesting and intriguing things for the Foreign Affairs Department. Now we'll go back to some of the incidents highlighting Swamiji's this great quality to get himself related with living human beings. Today we will take up 3 incidents, especially the way in which Swami Vivekananda moved and mingled with the poor people of India who form the real lifeblood of our country. During his Parivrajaka days, wandering days, Swamiji had arrived at a place called Alva. Since he had no acquaintances or any identity card to be told to anybody to get a stay in a lodge or any chhatra, he found it difficult to get a place to stay. But as is the ways of the great heroes, the man attracted by the appearance of Swamiji took him to a place where he can stay. But unfortunately, no arrangements for food and other things were made. When the going gets tough, they say the tough gets going. But during those times when Swamiji had no food to eat, he used to come out in the village and wander here and there, visit temples and other places. One day as he was wandering, suddenly he came across a small hut. As he was very hungry, He entered the hut, and to his surprise, he found a poor old lady welcomed him, and she started feeding him with thick, hot. This incident happened long before Vivekananda left for the West. At the time, nobody in India knew Swami Vivekananda as a great patriotic saint or a saint of unusual magnitude. Long back, after spending successful years in the West, he returned to India, electrifying the whole nation with his inspiring lectures, awakening the patriotic feeling. He was welcomed in many states, and on the way, Swamiji reached Rajasthan, where he was welcomed by the kings of different states. In Rajasthan, Swamiji was invited by one Raja, Mangal Singh, who was the king of Alwar. Previously, Swamiji had stayed in his palace, and as Swamiji had come triumphantly conquering the West, he was invited as a royal guest, and Swamiji was staying in the palace of the king. Many eminent and rich men and scholarly people came and met Swamiji, glorified Swamiji, spoke praisingly about him, as he was a royal guest, and the news has flashed all over the world as this is a new prophet of this modern India. As Swamiji was staying in the palace, one day he came out for a walk in the morning. As he was proceeding to a place, suddenly he remembered that this was the place long back when he had entered a poor old lady's hut, and without any hesitation, without any acquaintance, this strange lady fed this sannyasi with hot chapatis. This old lady was very poor in wealth, but unusually rich with love in her heart. Previously, she had fed Swamiji heartily. As Swamiji remembered those days when the old lady, though she was poor, could spare her food with the sannyasi, he suddenly entered the hut, and the old lady was mad with joy. As Swamiji was coming with the soldiers of the palace, the old lady got frightened, understanding that Swamiji signaled with his eyes, and all those soldiers left the hut. As they left, this lady came to her own elements and he told, "Oh, my dear child, my Lala." Lala is what they call in India as the pupil of the eye, Kanmani, and a Chellakutti, like that, what they call Mere Priya Lala. How are you? And she was very joyful seeing Swamiji after long years. Swamiji was also besides himself with joy, remembering the good old days when this grand old lady, he used to call her grandmother, she used to feed him. So as the kings left, the lady felt relaxed and she started conversing with Swami Vivekananda. She started telling, "Hey, my dear Lala, do you know that one famous sannyasi who has gone to the West and has come back successfully with great glory and triumph is the guest of our great king Mangal Singh Raja? All people are madly rushing to go to meet him, to talk to him and have discussion with him. Do you know him? Have you gone to meet him?" Then suddenly she became little morose and he told, "But how can you go? I am your poor mother and you are my poor child. How poor people can go to the palace and meet that famous sannyasi who has come from the West, spreading Hinduism there?" See, this is a very, very beautiful situation where Swamiji himself at the peak of the glory, enjoying the worldwide reputation, he has come to a poor lady's hut. He could have easily revealed himself that he is that great Vivekananda. But understanding that this mother is identifying herself with poverty along with the poor sections of the society, Swamiji is just made fun of her and told, "Dear grandmother, she was a fountain of motherly love." Swamiji laughed and told, "How is that if your own, this great Lala is a great Swami Vivekananda who is in the palace and honored by Swamiji?" The old lady patted Swami Vivekananda on the back and laughed and told, "You are poor, I am poor. How can my poor Lala go to the palace and meet that Swamiji? Leave it, all those things. Come on, now take food." Dusting the floor, atta from the chapati, she started taking hot chapatis from the oven and started joyfully feeding Swami Vivekananda without realizing that the Swami whom she is feeding now as her own dear darling, Mere Lala, was the great Swami Vivekananda, who was the guest of the king's palace. So simple and naive she was. And Swamiji was so moved by the pure and the tender motherliness and affection from that poor grandmother, he decided to remain as that poor lady's poor Mere Priya Lala. Instead of revealing himself as great Vivekananda who had conquered the world, he never revealed his identity as a world-conquering Vivekananda, but preferred to be the son, the child of the poor Lala of that old poor lady. The lady heartily fed him, and Swamiji also heartily released the food. While coming out, Swamiji squeezed 100-rupee note into her hand and saluting her with great satisfaction, gratitude, joy, and stomach full with boundless, loving, delicate food, delicious food, he took leave of this great grandmother with eyes floating in tears. See, this is a small incident, but as we look into it, we find that though Swami Vivekananda in those days was an unknown monk, went to the West, conquered the West, spread the message of Sanatana Dharma, came back, the whole India, the country was reveling in honoring him. In fact, India felt honored to honor him. In spite of all this great glory, pomp, and all the popularity, name, fame Swamiji got, Swamiji remembered that poor and insignificant lady, and exactly he went to her house, though he was staying in the palace. He could remember the bhiksha he got from that poor lady. This is Vivekananda in his best elements. When nobody bothered to give him food, at that time the old lady, unknown and a stranger, without inquiring who this Vivekananda was or who this sannyasi was, she extended her hospitality through her small hut. This is the typical amazing Bharat, the typical Indian women, the Indian mother. Everywhere we go, we sannyasis feel this tender motherly love of Indian women. This is something very, very unusual. Swamiji experienced this motherly love in the West, among the Western women also. So this motherly heart, and especially among the poor, speaks glorious volumes about India's samskaras and the great cultural, ethical, moral, and the spiritual height to which India had reached. This is the eternal India about which Vivekananda used to speak again and again. Though the external India had been smothered by foreign invasions and the conquest, but the eternal India still lived. This eternal India we see living in Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, in many of our movies, and Swami Vivekananda could relive and revisit this India in poor people's hut. So in spite of his conquest of the West by sublime spiritual thoughts and principles of Sanatana Dharma, and on the very day when he became popular after the first talk in Chicago Parliament of Religions, on the same night, Swami Vivekananda did not sleep on the cozy bed. He was lying on the floor and shedding tears for the poor country. When he came back after great glory, name, fame, and reputation, Vivekananda still remembered those poor people, the real eternal India. And as he started walking on those areas, he remembered the old poor lady, returned back that gratitude and thankfulness, and expressed his great feeling to that old lady without forgetting her. So this is something very, very unusual in the life of a man. Mostly when we are poor, we side with the poor people, we mix with them. But once we become great, once we get any power, position, or status, we find that we don't bother about poor people. We don't bother about the people who helped us when we were in need. So this is the great quality that we Indians want now, how to get related to the poor and downtrodden. When we get related to the poor and downtrodden, we will find it expressing itself in the different incidents, even in the life of great heroes of Mahabharata. We find in the life of Karna, he married a Dasi ultimately, because he was also very much smitten by the problem of caste. Understanding this great pain that is inflicted through the caste, Karna, the great Virya, Dana Veera Karna as he is called, he married the Dasi. So poor, downtrodden people belong to the lower caste, who are the very heartbeats of our motherland. If we neglect them, how this country can come up? It is by their sweat, it is by their toil, it is by their great effort that we live in posh houses, we walk through the wonderful roads, and we do enjoy all the things of life, because these poor people are working, toiling day and night in immense difficulties, yet they are bringing great gold to India. So when Swamiji returned back to the nation, the whole nation went mad and they felt honored in honoring him. But Swamiji felt honored in honoring the poor people who recognized or respected, honored and treated him so dearly, like a darling, when he was an unknown stranger's son. So this is what we have to learn from the life of great heroes. They set the path on which we have to walk. There's a famous line which they say, great men walk and leave on the footprints, leave on the sands of time their footprints for others to follow. So this is how we find this in the incident. Swami Vivekananda remembered that old lady, and this tendency to remember the gratitude, the thankfulness has been very beautifully depicted by Thiruvalluvar in his Thirukkural, Nandri Marappadu Nandrandru. That is, having got some help from somebody, forgetting that is not at all good, not at all courteous, and not at all is a sign of gentleman's behavior. So this is the first incident today we have discussed. Normally, we don't feel that much of attachment or liking to people at the lower state of life, or poor people, or people not belonging to any status, helping us. But Vivekananda, though he was a man of great stature and a magnificent personality, he could remember that, and exactly when he came back to India, he got connected with these people. This is really connecting with Indian. This is called BSNL. Not so-called Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, but Bharat Bhakti Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL, connecting India. Connecting India through wonderful love of the heart, the feeling for the poor and the downtrodden. This is the first incident. What is the time now? It's 5:49. Another 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'll wind up with two more beautiful, very touching incidents where we find these great traits of Swamiji, the great feeling of the heart. In spite of his magnificent stature, Swamiji could come down to the level of the lower strata of the people, lower level of the society, and mingle with them without any inhibition. One great thing I always feel about Swami Vivekananda is, in the case of normal great men, when you go and approach them or read about them, you feel they are great and you are small. But in case of Swamiji, whenever you approach Swamiji, either through the incidents, through his talks, through his messages, or through his images, we not only feel he is great, we feel we are also great. This is one of the great, what you call nature of elements in the nature, like fire. When you go near the fire, fire itself is not hot. It will make you feel hot and lend its greatness of heat to you. When you go to Ganga, Ganga itself is not cool by herself, but when you take a dip in the Ganga, Ganga will make you feel cool and lend her cooling effect on you. You go to breeze, you go to Himalayas, all parts of nature, they extend themselves unstintingly. That is a sign of a great man, a sign of greatness and generosity. Other people, as Krishna calls, are kripanaha, miserly. They will make you feel small and that they are great. In that comparison, they float in illusory greatness. Whereas in case of Swamiji, the greatness is so much overflowing that you also feel you are great when you approach him and meet him or talk to him or hear about him or read about him. This is real and essential greatness. During those Parivrajaka days in Rajputana, Swamiji was in one place, perhaps it is also, I think, Alwar only. Swamiji had come and nobody was there to receive him. He was in the railway station, And during his stays there, he met with one Vaishnav sadhu, a very simple, unassuming, normal day-to-day sadhu, Vaishnava sadhu called Ram Sanehi. He was so attracted by the personality and sweet nature of Swamiji that daily he used to come and visit him. He had an aluminium plate. He was so poor that the aluminium plate had so many holes, and every hole he used to cover it with a rivet. Rivet means a nail. Nail, when punched on both sides, will form like a small plate to cover the holes. So his plate was full of nails. So Swami Vivekananda used to humorously tell, this 1,000-nailed plate of yours, begging plate. So this Ram Sanehi used to come to Swamiji daily evening, talk to him, and Swami Vivekananda used to sing in his melodious voice. And with the aluminium begging plate, you can imagine the aluminium vessels containing lots of holes. Those holes are covered by nails which are beaten on both sides. It becomes like a rivet. It is called rivet in olden days. Nowadays, it is not so much available. It is also called riveting. So the Ram Sanehi used to beg food for Vivekananda, and he was so fond of Vivekananda's sweet nature and bhajans, he used to beg food for him. And sometimes he used to bring tobacco also for Swamiji to smoke. And after this few days in the Rajputana, Swamiji went back to Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and from there he went to United States, and there he met the great people of the West and conquered the West through his eloquent oratorical powers. And he was honored and welcomed all over and has been termed as the prophet of the millennium. But after that, he came back to India, and the whole nation was waiting to receive him as one single individual. And all the states all over India were eagerly waiting and hankering to have a meeting of Swamiji and a chance to welcome the great hero who has spread the glory of the country. This was in those days when we were slaves. Now talking about the greatness and glory of India is nothing unusual, but in those days it was very difficult for Indians and even Swamiji to get a haircut in the Western saloons. Many of the places it was written, dogs and Indians not allowed. During those difficult times, testing times, Vivekananda stood on the Western soil like a colossus, like a grand emperor conquering the West. So as he was coming back to India, he was also invited and welcomed by the Raja of Alwar, Mangal Singh. Mangal Singh, all of you remember, with whom Swamiji had a beautiful incident about image worship, which has become very famous all over India and other countries, criticizing Hinduism, that Hindus are image worshippers. And this incident revealed to the whole world that Hindus are not image worshippers, they are divine God worshippers. Through the image, they invoke the memory and the presence of the Lord and the Almighty God. And therefore, Hindus are not essentially image worshippers. By this beautiful incident between Raja Mangal Singh and Swamiji, the whole world got to know more about Hinduism in its purity and its depth. But anyway, we are coming to this particular person, Ram Sanehi, who was a Vaishnava saint. He was in Alwar and he had treated Swamiji with great hospitality, though he himself was a poor sadhu. Almost 4 years had gone. Swamiji had returned triumphantly to India and he was welcomed by the Alwar Raja, Raja Mangal Singh. A grand meeting was arranged to honor Swamiji, who had done so much for India. In that meeting, King himself and other top-level people, rich businessmen, and all aristocratic people, Pandit scholars were all invited, and they had all gathered and they were all on the stage. The meeting was about to start. There was a huge crowd bustling below the stage. Swamiji, who was on the stage, suddenly seeing a man in the crowd, started shouting, "Arey Ram Sanehi, hey Ram Sanehi." Everyone was surprised. Who is that man, Ram Sanehi, whom Swamiji is calling? They were wondering, who is such an important person that Vivekananda is calling without even bothering to start the meeting? He did not bother about the etiquettes or the courtesies of the stage, and all the big people gathered on the stage. Hearing this call, the poor Vaishnava sadhu Ram Sanehi joyfully came running. As soon as he came near, Swami Vivekananda embraced him, smiled, and after chatting with him for some time only, and after getting satisfied only, he allowed the king to start the meeting. Look at the great courage and also the great importance, and especially when kings and VIPs and all the aristocratic people are waiting for him to honor him, he never cared for his honor. But he could remember in the hundreds of people gathered there, that one Ram Sanehi who served and loved him when Vivekananda was an unknown, hungry, poor, begging, wandering monk. This is something supremely touching the sentiments of the heart. Everybody was honoring him as he had become world famous and he has brought glory to himself and India. But this Ram Sanehi, the poor Vaishnava sadhu, served and honored Swamiji when nobody knew him. Swamiji was an insignificant man. In fact, even now Swamiji could have easily forgotten him. He could have avoided speaking to him. But in his own inimitable style, Swamiji broke all the etiquettes and courtesies of the stage and hugged the sadhu and spoke to him for a few minutes, and then only he entered this. He sat on his seat and allowed the meeting to start. He never forgot that sadhu who served him so much, in spite of his success and having come in contact with many famous, rich, eminent people, both in India as well as in other countries. In his eyes, Ram Sanehi and the king Raja Mangal Singh were both one and the same. Nobody is more important, nobody is less important. Swami Vivekananda himself says, I am the lover of that God who is called by ignorant people as man. This incident reveals to us how, though it seems seemingly insignificant, the incandescent personality of Swamiji glows and comes out with unusual fragrance of the human heart called love. And when this love starts percolating through the different peoples of our population, it becomes Love India. Whatever Swamiji might have talked, here in this incident, we can see how he walked. And this really inspires us, motivates us, and teaches us how to walk our life as our great hero did. Such incidents illumine the inner traits of Swamiji as a lover of mankind. One more small incident is there, with which we will wind up today's discussion. Once Swamiji was going on the streets of Vrindavan, he was very hungry and he has not got food for a day or more. He was so tired, and on the roadside he saw a very poor, a very low caste man sitting with a hookah, smoking tobacco. First, Swami Vivekananda, as he was from aristocratic family, he also used to smoke tobacco. He first went to that man and told, dear brother, can you allow me to have a smoke from your hubble bubble, your hookah? Hearing Swamiji and seeing his magnificent, handsome personality with golden complexion, glowing with all the spiritual sadhana, this man for a moment was shaken. He was a very poor man, and he was also from this, Bhangi caste. Bhangi means scavengers caste. He told, Are Sannyasi Sadhu, you are from such a great status. I am a poor Bhangi Sadhu. I am an untouchable. How can I give a smoke to you? Swamiji, with endearing sweetness and smile, told, No, you are after all my brother. Why can't I have it, a smoke from your own tobacco? In spite of all his resistance, Swamiji sat near him, took few puffs from the tobacco and went away. Before that, Swamiji was about to move away as this poor man from the lower caste was trying to resist. And then this is what marks a great man and how great people conquer their own mind. For a few seconds, Swamiji's mind was thinking, as he told, he is from a lower caste, Bhangi caste. He was about to move and go away, but his mind started discriminating. Viveka. This is called Viveka. That's why it's Vivekananda. His mind started discriminating and he told, oh, am I also following caste rules? I'm a sannyasi. I'm above all caste. Vivekananda was cast in the mold of an acharya. How can he follow the Indian caste system? The so-called society's brutal caste system kills people by its own untouchability and all sorts of cruel ways of dealing with poor people. overcoming and winning over his own mind. Within a few seconds, Swamiji came back, and in spite of the resistance of this poor man, this Bhangi, Swamiji took few puffs from his hookah, smoked the tobacco, and with great warmth of the heart, patted him on his brother and told, "Dear brother, you are also my own." And with great joy, Swamiji walked towards Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a place of Sri Krishna, who was himself another magnificent god of love. So here, Swami Vivekananda's this small incident narrates to us how Swamiji could be swayed by the social thought currents on the surface of the mind, yet how he could rise up to his own great stature and then conquer himself through his power of discrimination and love for human being. So Swamiji smoked tobacco and went off. Long time after, when he came back to Belur Math after the conquest of the West, one day he was narrating this story to some of his brother disciples. Those monastic disciples laughingly they told, "Arey Naren, we know that you smoke tobacco. Don't tell all those things. You wanted to have a smoke of tobacco. That is why you went back and had a puff from his hookah." Swamiji became serious and told, No, brother, it is not for the love of tobacco I went, but I wanted to see that I am above all caste. The whole of India is down into the dumps because of this caste system. Then I was questioning my mind, am I also following caste system? Then I found that I am not following caste system. I won over myself. It is just to win my mind that I went and smoked tobacco with that poor man. This is how great people win themselves, and through their great characters win others also. So these few incidents reveal to us how great people, they live their life and also lead the mankind. With these few words, these flowers offered at the feet of Swami Vivekananda, we will wind up with one salutation mantra to Swamiji. And before that, there was a request from the Kodungalur Vivekananda Kendra to have meditation on Swamiji, but I have decided, now we are in November. After December, we will have January, the new year coming, and January is the birth month of Swamiji. Makara Sankranti was a time when Swamiji was born, and from that week, where we'll be celebrating Makara Sankranti, we will have meditation on Swamiji also for the last 10 minutes. So we will chant Swami Vivekananda's Pranama mantra and wind up today's meditation on Swamiji. Om Aim Swami Vivekanandaya Namaha. Om Aim Swami Vivekanandaya Namaha. Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Jai Swamiji Maharaj ki Jai.